Hello, everyone. This is Coach Thomas from CBN News, reporting from our nation's capital. We are wrapping up the two-day International Religious Freedom Summit, focusing on the issue of religious freedom around the world, the plight of Christians to Muslims, to Rohingya Muslims, to Uyghur Chinese Muslims, to Buddhists in Myanmar, to Thailand. So much suffering that's taking place around the world. You will remember almost 2 decades ago, when the United States got involved in Iraq, and then the ensuing war and the catastrophe that ensued as a result of that war, specifically what it did to the Christian population in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq. My next guest is Nuri Kino. He is a journalist, has been a journalist for many, many years, but a few years ago decided to take up the cause of those who are suffering in the Middle East, specifically in Iraq and Syria, and started an organization called A Demand for Action. Nuri, great to have you on the broadcast. Thank you so much for coming. You know, so much of our time has been spent focusing on the war in Ukraine the last 2 years. Now the explosion of the war between Hamas and Israel and the Gaza Strip, and now we see the actions of Iran and its proxies all across,
Nigeria,
Syria. You just name it. Lost in this conversation, I think, for quite some time has been the plight of Iraqi Christians. This is the cradle of Christianity. What has happened? Bring us up to date as we speak today. What are the numbers of Christians today in Iraq, and what are they facing?
So the Christians by ethnicity are Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriacs, and there are also some Armenians, and they are indigenous to Iraq, but also to Syria, and the numbers are dwindling, and it's very, very sad. I mean, the census about 23 years ago, before the illegal invasion of Iraq, was 1.4, 1.5 millions. Now they are in between 150, 120 and 300,000, depending on who you ask. Yeah. According to the State Department, they are 120,000 left.
And for those 120,000 Christians today living in Iraq, what do they face?
Well, right now, I mean, the Iraqi constitution has changed, so they have become second-class citizens. So they face daily discrimination within Iraq. Many of them have fled to the Kurdish regional up north, which is an autonomy, and there they are facing land grabbing, but the discrimination is not the same. The problem started already 2004 with the first beheading of a Christian, of a Syriac guy called Raymond Shamoun. And that's exactly nearly 20 years ago. And then it just went on and went on. And before Daesh, before ISIS, the terrorist group ISIS, already 117 churches were attacked, and many clergy people were beheaded, killed, and then ISIS came, and it's just going on and on. And why we are back here at IRF to give them a voice is that the situation for the refugees is devastating. They're abandoned, they feel abandoned, and they're forgotten, and so we're here to, because to give them a voice. And we met with several with several representatives of the Congress, Senate, and we will meet State Department. We also met actually other foreign ministries. That's the beauty with IRF. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that the whole world is, more or less coming together, and that you can give a voice to the unheard.
After the devastating invasion of Iraq, has the plight of Christians gotten better or worse in Iraq?
Oh, much worse. Much worse.
Do they have any religious freedom? Are they able to communicate, to share the gospel openly today in Iraq?
Yes, they do, but again, they are second-class citizens. So they're not, and there are small attacks here and there to scare them out of the country.
Sure.
And the discrimination also, it's also, what do you call it, practiced in another way. So like for now, they closed all liquor stores, and they were, all liquor stores were owned by the Christians, meaning get out. So the signal is always get out, or just, just adjust to being a second-class citizen. And that's very, very sad.
And in many cases, these Christians who have chosen to remain, they have to, in essence, pay a jizya tax, this protection tax, in order to, A, not get kidnapped, B, be put in prison or get killed. I mean,
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Since,
It's okay.
Constitution, not
Okay.
since the terror group ISIS
Okay.
was
But do they feel safe today in Iraq?
no, they do not feel safe.
Yeah.
So that because in our survey we asked them, why do you not go back to your home countries? Why do you not go back to Syria and Iraq? Things have gotten better, but no, they don't believe it will get better. So what we are here for is that to remind the world of them. They need food, they need healthcare, they need housing, they need education in the neighboring countries, and they also need asylum. Many of them are scattered all over the world. We're talking about a huge number of people. Percentage is enormous. So these people, many of them haven't met their parents, or their parents have passed away, or their children without. I mean, I know families who have siblings in Canada, Australia, Sweden, Germany, all over the world.
Scattered all around
Yes,
the world.
yeah.
Is there a sense that those you just have come out with a survey? It's called the Elephant in the Room, where you have gone to neighboring countries, for example, like Lebanon, where a lot of Iraqi Christians and Syrian Christians have taken refuge. How are they treated, and are they thriving? Because I mean, Christians in the Middle East, especially like in Iraq, they were fairly well off. They were educated. They were, they just had very many businesses. How are they faring today as refugees in these other countries?
The problem with Lebanon is that the country has collapsed.
Correct.
It's the highest inflation in the world.
Yeah.
So let's say they could get a job for $100 a month before. Now the Lebanese have to take that job. So there is no way they can, manage. So what they have to is to rely on small charities, and that's not always, fundraising. It's also becoming very odd.
Yeah.
So now we're asking, the U.S. government to help us to find an American NGO, an American 501, and that we can implement the projects and help these people. And also the UNHCR to prioritize them in the asylum system, because they are de facto.
Yeah.
And we contributed to the UN recognizing on the 1st of December 2022 to recognize the atrocities against this persecuted group as war crimes and crimes against humanity. So, but after that, what happened? Nothing. It's recognized.
Yeah.
It's on paper, but is
Nothing
anyone?
is being done.
Yes.
Yeah. Final question. Obviously, this is, like I said, the heart, the cradle of cradle of Christianity
And civilization.
and civilization. Exactly. I was not wrong. I didn't misspeak there.
I speak the mother tongue of
Arabic, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah. So
proud of that.
I'm curious, what happens when you empty a country like Iraq and Syria of all its Christians, where Christianity, found its roots in Iraq, in Mesopotamia? Now that you have basically the emptying of Christianity, what does that mean?
And I mean, wherever you go in the world, if you don't have diversity, if you don't have a multicultural, things are becoming worse and people are becoming fundamentally. So it means that Iraq is changing to something that we all didn't want to, and hope it will, stop someday.
Yeah.
As you said before, the Iraqi Christians or Assyrian Chaldean Syriacs and Armenians were most of them very well educated. You can find doctors, engineers, lawyers, whatever academics in the group of refugees.
Yeah, it's a real.
They have no problem becoming, dishwashers or cab drivers, as long as they can take their children to safety.
Sure.
I mean, in US or Sweden or wherever.
Sure, absolutely. It's so sad after the invasion of Iraq. We would have hoped that, as George W. Bush said, that the winds of democracy would blow. Unfortunately, they have not blown very well for the minority faith groups in that region. Nuri, thank you so much for coming on this broadcast and for spotlighting the issue. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to be here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to be hitting the road into my travels. We're going to go back to Ukraine, back to the Middle East. I hope you will join me for those reports. I'll be doing YouTube lives from the road in a couple of weeks. I hope you'll join us. Thank you again for joining us for this time, and I really appreciate it. This is George Thomas for CBN News in Washington, D.C. Terrific.
George, we evacuated the first